Well, it was initiated last autumn with the Storm Desmond that hit Cumbria, and it was a way of helping farmers recover basically from the effects of flooding in that neck of the woods. And then we had Storm Eva and Storm Frank, which is the storm that particularly affected this area of Yorkshire, and the recovery fund was rolled out there as well. Oh, it was definitely a good thing. I mean, it's the first time that we've been flooded very frequently here, and ever increasingly frequently. So it was the first time that we've actually had any sort of support, any sort of recognition for storing that flood water that otherwise could have caused an awful lot of trouble in the area. Well, what's definitely been welcome this year is that we haven't had a repeat. The storms they've come, but they look to have gone further north. They haven't had quite the sort of impact, so that that's a good thing. What the series of storms last winter did was they really started to focus government's attention on the fact that we do have a real issue here, and the EFRA committee report that came out on the 2nd of November that highlighted the fact that government has got to think and act very differently, and we certainly have in the last 12 months. We've seen a response to what happened last winter. What we now start to look for is some action following those discussions and announcements. Well, we invest an awful lot of money in producing food from our land. That's how we make a living, and we're seeing in recent years quite a change in weather patterns. So we're not necessarily getting more rain, but we're getting it a lot more intensely in very short periods of time. And the effect on our river systems is that they just can't cope. And were that flood water not to go onto farmland, it would cause devastation in cities and other industries as well. So to have something to help out with the costs, that what we've lost, is definitely very useful. Firstly, I'm going to reiterate the fact that we have the Farming Recovery Fund is something that is very much welcomed, because prior to that there was nothing. And I think it's important that this is now available in flooding when it happens again, because there's no doubt that it will happen. One of the anomalies that there was with the fund was that it was, for somebody like myself who grows arable crops, there was a very limited amount of criteria that we could actually apply for. The fact there was only really one, which was the reinstatement of land. There wasn't any sort of support for the loss of the seed that had been sown, or any of the applications or the effort that had gone into producing the young crops that were then lost. So I think it could be broadened there. Well, once it was announced, from memory you could download the application form. There was a series of sort of sections to it that you then applied for the funding, and then once you'd completed the works, there's evidence was needed in some cases, so photographs, might have been invoices. You would then apply for the funding that you'd asked for, and in our case we applied for it. We got the money, and I think some people are still waiting, but it's it was certainly a help.